O'clock on the Sound of Love 101, and it is time for the Morning Watch with Stokely Marshall. The Morning Watch is brought to you today by Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica, Partners for Life. Do you have a heart condition? Your care should be in the hands of our experienced cardiovascular team at Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. We're one of the leading heart centers for angiogram, stenting, pacemakers, EP studies, and ablation therapy. PICJ has the expertise and latest technology to treat all your heart needs. Call 876-995-7425 or email info@pic-jm.com for appointments. PICJ, your partners for life.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 7128-328-001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. In the main watch today, on the menu, insect-based meals. In the second watch, generational indoctrination, dissecting the process. In our social media question, we ask, well, let's look at our social media question because, listeners, this social media question might be quite interesting. Would you consider eating insects as a meal? If so, which ones would you include in your diet? That is the social media question. Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your conversation on the program at first, as I quote.
This morning's I quote is an inspirational quote. The man who does not read books has no advantage over the one who cannot read them. Bop, bop. Mark Twain.
Very interesting. I quote Dr. Blair. I need you to
Okay.
unpack this one for us.
I like it. You don't have no advantage. You're just like the person who can't read.
Interesting. I
So
wonder
one
what.
step or the other.
Yes, I leave that one right there. Thank you, Dr. Blair. Hope you're having a wonderful day so
I
far.
certainly am. I hope you are too. Looking forward to the insect. The discussion.
Yes, the main watch. The main watch will be back after this break.
Save in style every time you shop at Home and Things. Find all the top brands at the best prices. Grab a deal on porcelain, ceramic and mosaic tiles, fixtures and faucets for kitchen and bathroom, windows and doors, lighting, home decor and more. Yes, you can save in style on just about everything in store. Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Shop for store-wide savings today at Home and Things. Brands you know, brands you can trust.
Effective immediately, children 12 years and younger can access free medical care at the University Hospital of the West Indies, UHWI. This arrangement is in response to the increase in viral illnesses and resulting overcrowding at the Bustamante Hospital for Children, which is usually seen this time of year. Children and the elderly are among the most vulnerable groups, especially at this time as the flu and gastroenteritis season intensifies. Jamaicans are reminded to only take paracetamol and to visit the nearest health center if symptoms do not improve. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Well, I don't know which spoon, fork, cup, or plate we're going to use, but I am 99% positive it won't be any of mine once insects are on the menu. But apparently, there are numerous lovers of, some say, edible insects. Is there such a thing as edible insects? Well, and people who even specialize in the making of these dishes. One European food manufacturer may, in the future, make their next big thing the mass production of, that word edible again, edible insect foods. Yes, foods made out of insects of some sort. What is the motivation and rationale and benefit, if any, and what insects are we talking about? And what kinds of dishes are possible? Can you even make dishes out of insects? Well, our guests today, we have a Rashid Perry, public health nutritionist, and chef David George Gordon. And David George Gordon seems to go with the name The Bug Chef, and he apparently is what is known as an edible insect ambassador. Edible and insect being in the same sentence, not sure, but he will unpack this for us. Good morning, Chef Gordon, and good morning, Rashid Perry. How are you both?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I am well. Glad to have you both.
Thank you.
Now, jumping right into it, because we never ever have enough time on the morning watch. And of course, this topic in and of itself seems to be extremely, what is the word now? Is it esoteric? Unique. We could look for the right word. Now, when did the eating of insects become or appear to become mainstreamed as it seems to be today? There is a well-known supermarket chain in the UK, for example, that might be selling such things shortly or sometime in the future. Starting with you, Mr. Perry, the nutritionist. Any thoughts on this, sir?
Sure, definitely. When it comes to the consumption of insects, it's not something that is new. It has always existed.
Well, let me
Um,
say in the Western world then,
in,
because I
right,
think for us in the West, it might be something that we see as something that only happens in certain other parts of the world, not using that in a way to put any section of the world down.
right.
But in the Western world, it certainly is not something that we are accustomed to.
It's not something that we're accustomed to because, for the most part, when we look at our protein foods, we've mainly depended upon domesticated animals. And for a long time, we viewed insects as pests. There's an innate fear of insects. So you find that when we think about having insects as a part of the diet, it scares a lot of people. Um, but to be very honest, we do have countries in the Western world who do consume insects as well. But when you look at the main theme across countries, you find that domesticated animals are what persons have gravitated to, and that's because that's the food group that we've been exposed to the most. Um, but insects can form a part of the diet as well.
Do you have an issue with domesticated animals? You've used that term at least twice in your opening.
We do have issues with the overconsumption of domesticated animals.
With the what consumption?
Overconsumption. So,
Overconsumption of. Well,
of
let me ask you this question only because, well, I'll tell you why afterwards. Are you a vegan, for instance, Mr. Curry?
oh no, 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 I'm not a vegan. I'm not.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, understood. I've tried it before. That's why I asked. But go ahead, sir.
All right. So when it comes to domesticated animals, let's say, for example, chicken,
Yeah,
um, what you find is the chickens that we're consuming tend to have a lot of hormones being added. They're a lot larger than they're supposed
by
to
the
be.
manufacturers,
Right.
not
For
like
the purpose.
Jamaican homegrown chickens, which are
Right.
one of those things. But
One of those.
well,
But you're finding that it's becoming less and less in terms of having homegrown livestock anymore.
I
Most of the
understand. But
livestock
so that we
are,
don't have an issue with
yeah,
anyone saying that we are saying all of the
no.
chickens from manufacturers have hormones. We have at least one or two well-known companies in Jamaica that produce chickens for consumption.
Right.
And I recall seeing a big label, no hormones or hormone free.
Right.
So what do you mean, Mr. Perry?
All right. So this is just a general statement. It's not aimed at
Okay.
any particular manufacturer. But when you compare, let's say, the nutrient content of insects to that of, the meat that we currently eat, you find that the nutrient content is sometimes even more superior in the insects. And you find
More
that
superior?
yes,
Oh.
yes. And you find
What
that
kind of
the
insects are we
protein,
talking about? I know we want to bring in the chef, but what kind of insects are we talking about? When I think of insects, I think of cockroaches, I think of what Jamaicans call 40 leg, and I
Mhm.
think of grasshoppers. What kind of insects are you talking about?
All right. So just to give you
Are
an
cockroach,
example.
I hope I'm not getting anyone's breakfast, their stomach turning the
Mhm.
wrong,
All right,
turning the wrong way. Are
just to give,
cockroaches included?
cockroaches are included as well.
Are
Um,
included?
yes,
Yes.
but
But
remember,
I
no,
buy road spray to spray these things to kill them, to
but, but,
stunt
re-
them so that I can step on them.
but remember, no, these insects are grown under a certain condition, so they're not like
Cockroaches?
captured. Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
No. Anyway, you know what? Continue, sir.
And,
Continue.
and to be very honest, I've had a cheesecake made from
No,
cockroach.
stop
Yeah.
right there, Mr. Perry. Let's bring in Mr. Gordon. Mr. Chef Gordon, um, this what well anyway, Chef Gordon, David George Gordon, when did we begin to have the mainstreaming of eating of insects, and what do you understand the eating of insects to be in terms of helping to fight climate change? Because I'm hearing that from some persons. Mr. Chef Gordon?
Yes, I'm glad you asked because, excuse me, that's a topic I've been working on since 1998 when I wrote this book, the Eat a Bug Cookbook.
You have a book
And
that says, can you hold the book back up to the screen, sir?
sure,
No, a little bit
there we
further
go,
up. The Eat a Bug Cookbook.
cookbook. That's right. This book came out in 1998 and
One
it was
second, sir. When you say bugs, what do you mean by bug? What kind of
well,
bugs?
that's kind of a general term for
Oh,
all insects and a few other things. I'll show you the back of the book. This is a deep fried tarantula spider. So I have 40 different recipes for cooking with things like black ants, cockroaches, yes, grasshoppers, crickets, uh, praying mantises, all sorts of stuff. And they're all recipes in my book, which, like I said, has been in print. Well, it went out of print about 2 years ago, but it was in print for about 22 years. So a long time. Um, Things really picked up from my observation in 2013 because that's the year that the Food and Agriculture Organization, it's a branch of the UN, they released a really big report saying that we would be better off as a planet if we started focusing on raising insects for food instead of things like cattle or pigs.
Stick up
Which,
in right there. Stick up in there one moment, Chef Gordon, because it sounds like you're going down the road in terms of the rationale in terms of climate change. Hold that thought, sir. As
sure.
well as Rashid Perry. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
All right.
Get better coverage for yourself and your family as low as $800 a month. The time buy JN Life Vest from JN Life Insurance is
$715 and a half.
from generation to generation. Jamaicans have depended on JN Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. JN Bank will help you find a way.
You know what's sweet? The new pack Sweet Living promotion. Win great prizes.
Bedroom set, living room set, kitchen appliance set, plus TVs and monthly cash prizes.
Send in 5 new pack labels. Labels must belong to at least the new pack corned beef, new pack Vienna sausages, and sauces categories.
Below the tagline, new pack, more than just value.
Place your inch in one of the drop boxes at participating outlets or enter by mail. Time to live sweet. Enter the new pack Sweet Living promotion. August 28th to November 19th. See the press for more details. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
The Morning Watch is brought to you today by Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica, Partners for Life.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the main watch, and the topic is on the menu, insect-based meals. And our guests are Rashid Perry, public health nutritionist, and Chef David George Gordon, the bug chef, edible insect ambassador. I have a difficulty saying edible insect. And he is the author of a book as well, which he has been introducing to us on this show. Chef David George Gordon, you said that in 2013, there was something of a landmark event that helped to propel the idea that persons could eat insects. And I know I will definitely not be among those eating the insects, but Chef Gordon, you are our guest. So what tell us again what happened in 2013, sir?
Yes, in 2013, there was a report that was released, and this is a very thick report. It wasn't just a little pamphlet. It was a very well-produced publication.
And this is a report from which country, or you said United? Can you remind us?
It actually was spearheaded by the Netherlands, but it was produced by basically a branch of the United Nations, the Food and Agriculture Organization.
I see.
And that book really laid out for us why we're on the wrong track by focusing on things like cattle production or chicken rearing, that those animals require a lot of food and a lot of water. It's not very sustainable, in particular in light of the fact that our population...
Stick up in, Chef Gordon. I'm not equating human beings to animals.
Well, they're saying that...
let me finish. We are higher than animals in my thought process from a biblical perspective. However, we require a lot of water. I drink a lot of water all the time. I drink a lot of water every day. So what's the problem if animals are consuming a lot of water?
Well, for example, it takes about 2,000 gallons of water to raise 1 pound of steak.
And what's the problem with that?
The problem is our fresh water resources on Earth are finite. We can't create more drinkable water. Pretty much what we have is what you get. And the problem with that is our population, human population, is growing very rapidly, like by billions.
We have the rain that keeps falling. There are some parts of the world that they rely on rainwater harvesting. But continue, sir.
Well, the idea is we don't really have the arable land, the farmable land, or the water resources to actually produce enough beef for example, for all the people that will be inhabiting our planet, sharing those resources. So this
I
book is
see.
pointing out that we could do a lot to save the quality of life on our planet by diversifying and eating other things. And in this particular instance, they're talking about insects. Now, I realize this is controversial because a lot of people have really bad attitudes about insects. They're
No, not
slimy
bad
or
attitudes.
disgusting,
Well,
etc.
well, you can say bad attitude, but I don't think it's a bad attitude. But well, put it this way. Let me ask a question. Uh, right now, sir, Chef Gordon, I know you cook cockroaches, or you say you can, and I'm not challenging you there in terms of your ability to do it and so forth. You're the chef.
Mhm.
However, think about it from the other angle. Why are we, in your thinking, then purchasing sprays to kill insects, such as cockroaches? We have these things in our homes, etc., and we use it to spray them. And we have persons who are pest control persons who come in to make sure they get rid of the pests. These are largely insects. Any thoughts on that, Chef Gordon?
Well, yes, I've actually worked with some large companies. Terminix, for example, is a pest
Yeah.
control company, and they've hired me to do cooking demonstrations all over the United States. Their attitude is, they've put it this way: we know not all insects are bad, but the ones that if create problems, if you have that, call us. That's their current slogan. So even they acknowledge that food insects are not a bad thing; they're a good idea, and you know, they also are happy to help you when you have the ones that actually make your home into their home. So that's an issue.
Okay, so you seem to be making a distinction between good insects and insects which are not good, Chef Gordon.
That's right. I do want to mention that if you read the Bible, and I suspect you do, that there is John the Baptist who basically ate locusts, flying grasshoppers, and honey. That was his major diet. And furthermore, in the Old Testament, they
And
talk about,
you're equating a locust to a cockroach. I'm just
well,
asking.
let me tell you this: the vast majority of life on our planet is a form of insect, whether it's a cockroach or a grasshopper or a cricket or an ant. They outnumber us gazillions to
Well,
one.
I'm not sure if you've answered the question about the equating, but anyway, I'll leave it there for the time being. I
Yeah.
don't want to forget Mr. Perry, unless there is something further you want to quickly say now, Chef Gordon, because never enough time in the morning watch.
Oh, just that insects are actually a superfood. They're rich in protein, they're rich in vitamins and minerals. They even have antioxidants, something you'd normally get by eating salmon or fish from the ocean. So they really are wonderful animals, and they require way less food and water to raise and bring to the market.
There must be other ways of preserving the environment other than eating insects. But, Mr. Perry, a quick one, because I did a little, well, based on a former life I had in terms of what I studied,
Mhm.
I am beginning to already ask myself some socio-economic questions. For example, would the ruling classes of any given Western society be eating a lot of insects if we were to even go down this road? Because what I'm foreseeing, possibly, is that if we really go down this road, the masses might be the ones eating these insects a lot. And the elite, the politicians, the very wealthy, the wealthier or the well-to-do would be infusing more meat in their diet. So you can even foresee your child coming home to say, Mommy, how comes we can't have any chicken or steak? Because so and so's parents always have steak and we only eat crickets
Mhm.
or locusts or grasshoppers. Rashid Perry, any thoughts on that? Even though you are a nutritionist, but I'm taking a little bit outside of your realm.
All right. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't foresee that happening per se in terms of the upper class only having
Okay, let
those
me
type
let me
of
paint
things.
a scenario to you, Mr. Perry. You are the head of state. You are the head of state for Jamaica, and you're greeting a head of state from another country. You're going to feed him cockroaches or her?
No, but the thing is, it's
I'm
not.
just asking. I'm asking a practical question. I'm not.
No,
I'm coming a little bit out of the esoteric realm now into everyday reality. Would you be
I'm.
serving a dish of cockroaches to guests at your wedding? I'm
It
just
can.
asking.
Yeah, man, and that's what I'm going to answer. It can be served, but it's not going to be. I'm serving you cockroaches, right? It's going to be a part of a meal or
Yes,
the
with the
name of a meal.
seasoning and all of that. And I know Chef Gordon would know what to season it with. But
Right.
are you still going to be essentially serving cockroaches as you would serve steak?
It can be. So yes, why not?
And our traditional Christmas seasons where we have a lot of ham,
Hmm.
Easter where we have a lot of fish,
Hmm.
and other seasons of the year, at various events, you will have a birthday party. You are foreseeing that, yes, you can be serving people bugs at these events instead of the ham, instead of the fish,
Hmm.
instead of the chicken.
It can be.
Oh.
But again, with cultural norms and societal norms, you may find that insects may not necessarily replace it, but it can be something that we can use from time to time. I think culturally we've seen insects as pests, um, and that would have to change first before we even get to that point.
Well,
Here, here.
I'm glad you mentioned. Well, yes, yes, Chef Gordon. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Chef Gordon.
Oh, well, I think mostly we're talking about mind over matter, that people have a really bad attitude in our cultures about insects. And insects are actually incredibly valuable. They're recyclers of dead stuff, they're pollinators for plants, they're food for lots of other animals, including other insects. And we'd be in a lot of trouble if all of a sudden we did not have insects. But for example, Stokeley, not to be disrespectful, but you're immediately focusing on cockroaches, which are kind of universally disliked. Uh, Ironically, in China, for example,
Which you can cook, you say?
yeah, I've made all sorts of dishes with
Yes.
domestically raised cockroaches. Why not? They're just insects. And I will tell you that in places like China, for example, there are enormous factories where they raise cockroaches both for food and for medicine. They get all sorts of uh, uh, chemical compounds out of these cockroaches that are considered good medicine in their culture. So they don't have that stigma that we do in our countries.
Is it only stigma, or isn't there something else about these insects, which is why we have been, let me say, rightfully calling them pests all this time? Because again, we have all of these things that we use to kill them to make sure they don't create a nuisance. I'm just putting that out there. And if you were to, for instance, if your child for instance, unfortunately, take in an insect into their body, we would be rushing them to the hospital to
Well,
save our child. But go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
oh, I was going to say, Mr. Perry was right. A lot of it is linked to farming practices where all of a sudden insects became the enemy. They're actually one of the few creatures on our planet that's in direct competition with people for food. So if you have a nice field of wheat and all of a sudden these locusts appear, you might be in trouble. So there's been a lot of focus on getting rid of them. In the United States, they've actually gotten rid of the native species of the locust. There aren't anymore, and that was a major campaign done by the agriculture programs here in this country. But
Well, sorry, I thought you were through.
oh, I was just going to say, it really is linked to our attitudes that mostly come through farming. And there's also a lot of fear mongering from pest companies that they want you to feel really bad if you have 2 insects on the outside of your house, or worse yet, in your house, and you've got to call them
Well,
and get them to come out.
if I'm buying some pastry and I see an insect on it, I don't want the pastry. But anyway, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time and for your thoughts, because it was a very interesting discussion, and we welcome all views on the Morning Watch. And I agree, this is a controversial topic, but we are totally out of time. So Chef Gordon and Mr. Perry, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
All right. Thank you very much.
Talk to Jane Bank today to find out about achieving your own sweet home in 30 days. The time by Jane Bank Mortgage is
7:30 and a half. You're inside the Morning Watch, brought to you by Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. Partners for Life. Do you have a heart condition? Your care should be in the hands of our experienced cardiovascular team at Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. We're one of the leading heart centers. Angiograms, stenting, pacemakers, EP studies, and ablation therapy. PICJ has the expertise and latest technology to treat all your heart needs. Call 876-995-7425 or email info@pic-jm.com for appointments. PICJ, your partners for life.
I'm Tammy.
I'm Wayne.
And we are the Mitchells. Our life is a busy vibe. So Flow Yard and Road is made for our vibe.
Power your everywhere vibe with Yard and Road, and get up to 150 megabits per second fiber fast internet at home and fully loaded mobile with unlimited social and YouTube data. Anywhere talking text plus gigs and gigs of any use data. All for a special offer of $4,999 plus GCT. Yard and Road is for the way you live. Flow, Jamaica's network. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
National bill up the nation. Nice baked goods for everybody. Nothing no sweet me like bun and cheese. National make your bill with the family. We love cheesy folds and mommy prefer crackers and tea. And we support all one chicken man with the hard bread, you know, giant brand. Serving the people of Jamaica with wholesome food to help you stay strong. Yeah. Grab your national bag, original, truly Jamaican. Something for all occasion. Good for your breakfast, lunch or snack. Grab your national bag, original, truly Jamaican. Best quality, 70 years strong. National bill of the nation. National Baking Company, baked with pride since 52.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we take a look firstly at the Daily Gleaner. Among the latest news, person of interest in Slickiana murder case arrested. Another item among the latest news, Holness, referring to the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, embarrassed by garbage pileup. And let's turn now to the Jamaica Observer. There is a story here, poor management, councillor scores waste management agency as smoke emissions continue at retirement dump. We also have child thugs, a worrying trend. Another headline here, child thugs, a worrying trend. Commish, referring to the Commissioner of Police, says 875 kids charged with murder, rape, robbery, and other serious crimes. Child lobbyist not surprised. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, would you consider eating insects as a meal? If so, which ones would you include in your diet? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes to 87699733125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Come here, Lizzie. We have to leave now, but I'm so glad I can carry my Love 101 FM with me anywhere me go.
How you do that?
What do you mean? I have the Love 101 FM app on my phone, so no matter wherever support me go, I just click on the app and perhaps my Love 101 is right here with me on my iPhone.
But after me not have iPhone, so how me I go here?
Simply go to your Play Store on your Android phone. Search for Love 101 FM. The red app with the Love 101 logo will show up and you just download it. Even my friend in New York did a listen Love the other day. Clear New York, my dear. And you know how him did a listen?
Let me guess.
Pan the Love 101 FM app.
All right then, all right. Me I go download it so I can have love with me to anywhere me go. Have you downloaded the Love 101 FM app? Take Love 101 FM with you anywhere and listen anytime via the Love 101 app. Available in your Play Store for Android phones and on your iPhone in the App Store. Love 101 FM. We are here, there, and everywhere. The family station.
Love 101. The family station.
The 10,000 Men and Families Movement in association with all churches in St. Catherine presents the historic Night of Hope for Spanish Town under the theme End Violence, Build Peace. Sunday, 6th November, 4:30 p.m. at the Town Center, Spanish Town, with marching bands, uniform groups, and scouts groups across St. Catherine, moving from the police station to the Town Center. Music by O'Shane Nays and Perpetual Praise. Word by Pastor Paul Mason. Come in your thousands as we stand against murder, praying as we embrace.
Another World of Music Wednesday is coming your way inside Alive 1 to 5 today, November 2, packed with worship, fun, and information. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. 2:15, we feature Kurt Carr as our worship artist of the day. Then at 3 p.m., in Live Bible Challenge ABC Season 3, we bring you the third match in Round 1, featuring Natalia Evans going up against Akeem Gordon. All this and more will come your way inside Alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. this World of Worship Wednesday, November 2, with your host, Sarah Ann the Chirpy One, right here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley, Marshall, and of course, thanks for staying with us. Well, let's join Dr. Nadine Blair for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. Would you consider eating insects as a meal? If so, which ones would you?
Me, none. Merlin says, maybe ants, but not a whole meal. Sister P says grasshopper. I have had grasshopper, but never knew what it was until after I enjoyed it and I was told what it was. I would just faint. Carol says, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. No, I know what it is, miss. And I know why I say 6 of one, 7 of the other. Because some things are similar, but not the same. Morning Watch said, she says, eating insects, that's not happening. Insects have their purpose and it's not for eating. Denise, okay, no. Joan says, let's hear what Joan says.
As for me, I have enough to contend with whatever I'm eating, like processed meat, like ham and stuff, or whatever meat. But for insect, no, it's not for me. That's not gonna be my part of my diet. I will not eat insect, and that's why I don't travel to anywhere I can't get an English speaking Caribbean country or anywhere else. I am not eating nothing that I cannot call or read on a menu or pronounce. And if I see it look funny, it ain't mine. It's not gonna happen because insect is not mine. The Bible says crawling insect. It never tell me if you eat anything. Hey, no, not my diet.
All right.
No
Okay.
insect for
All
me.
right. All right. That one was a
As
little
for
long.
me, I have enough to
Okay, quiet. Christopher just says never. Marilyn says no. Claudia, let me just
Good
put you
morning,
here.
Auntie Nadine, Dr. Nadine Blair. You make me can't eat me break. Me not okay eat me breakfast, man. Oh, sickening. Just the thought of that. Oh no. No. Yuck.
And I think everybody basically saying the same
Internet, I would
thing.
like to send happy birthday greeting.
Or not. Angela said no way, Jose. Not seeing. Oh, somebody says here I would try grasshopper. And I think generally the same things.
And Dr. Blair, I didn't challenge the chef, but when John the Baptist would have eaten locust, he was in the
Well, there
wilderness. He
you
probably
go,
couldn't do
for
any
real.
better. He couldn't do any better.
Yes, for real.
He was in the wilderness. Away from civilization. We move right into the second watch. And, hardly a day passes, it seems, and we're not exposed to some sort of subliminal or overt message that goes against our moral or spiritual grain. And the same messages that we get are being sent, unfortunately, to our children. Maybe even more so because, as it is being said, as a twig is bent, so is a tree inclined. At school, on social media, in the community, at home, in the community, at home, even in church, you can have these messages. And how is this bending being done, though? How is it being done? What subjects, what issues are they being introduced to? Sometimes behind our backs, and with what intentions? What should the community, parents, the family as a whole look out for? We have as our guests today Pastor Silburn Carr, Pastor Abundant Life Christian Church, and Dr. Daniel Thomas, President of the Love March Movement. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Michael.
Morning.
Marshall.
Now getting right into it. Is generational indoctrination a new thing? Is generational indoctrination a new thing? And can you identify any type of issue or effort being made to, as it were, indoctrinate our children? Starting with you, Pastor Silburn Carr.
I don't think it's a new thing. I think over time, I would call it cultural practices has been a form of imparting values and behavioral norms. I think indoctrination is a strong word because it implies a process that deliberately inculcate a particular kind of knowledge and does not allow any objection. So indoctrination is strong.
What issue or issues do you think are being foisted on children?
Issues in terms of how one should behave, and it comes through music as a very strong social vehicle.
Okay,
movies.
Music is one avenue, but what is the music bringing to the children then?
It brings certain values in terms of behavior, in terms of how things are viewed.
You mean violence? You mean violence?
But yeah, violence. How we should relate to each other. A person who informed about something that is illegal is seen as an informer. In terms of sexual behavior, etc., etc. So it shapes the value system in a very subtle way.
Hold that thought, Pastor Carr, only because of time. Dr. Daniel Thomas, is it new? What issues are being pushed on children in your view?
Yeah, man. So thanks again for having me, Stokeley. I think when I think about generational indoctrination, I think a key element to it, especially with respect to children, is the ignoring of the role of the parents, circumventing parents and going to the children. I think that really is a fairly new phenomenon because of an effort to undermine the family structure. And so I think it's generally understood that part of what has been happening.
You mean in Jamaica, or you mean in other countries?
Well, we are becoming more globalized, fortunately or unfortunately. We live in a global society, and so when these global things come on the horizon, we really have to take note. And so we can think about things like the
Hold
LG.
that thought, Dr. Daniel Thomas. Hold the thought, Dr. Daniel Thomas. Don't lose your train of thought. Listeners, we're upon a break. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
Another World of Music Wednesday is coming your way inside Alive 1 to 5 today, November 2, packed with worship, fun, and information. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. 2:15, we feature Kurt Carr as our worship artist of the day. Then at 3 p.m., in Live Bible Challenge ABC Season 3, we bring you the third match in round 1, featuring Natalia Evans going up against Akeem Gordon. All this and more will come your way inside Alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. this World of Worship Wednesday, November 2, with your host, Sarah Ann the Chirpy One, right here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and the topic of this second watch is generational indoctrination, dissecting the process. We have as our guests for this segment Pastor Silburn Carr, pastor of Abundant Life Christian Church, and Dr. Daniel Thomas, president of the Love March movement. Just before the break, Dr. Daniel Thomas, you're making an interesting point in relation to children being indoctrinated, such in a particular way, but the parents are being left out of the process. Am I catching what you said correctly?
Right. Certainly, when we think about the process of indoctrination of our children, what has been happening is that there's a circumventing of the role of the parent. And so there are these several global agendas, but one in particular, which is of great concern, is the LGBT agenda. The Love March movement, we speak quite frequently about that. And so, what has been happening a lot, especially in the context of America, is that the trans ideology has really taken hold in a huge way. That is the concept of gender being fluid. I can be male today and female tomorrow. And those kind of things being inculcated into the school curriculum in the United States, and children being allowed to, at school, identify as whatever gender they want to be, independent of discussions with their parents, getting counseling and being affirmed in that kind of way of thinking. And it's not just a US phenomenon; it's quite global. The UK and Europe as well. But locally, there are organizations which are committed to what they term comprehensive sexuality education, which does promote these kinds of ideas. I'm talking about organizations like FamPlan. They celebrated their 65th anniversary last week in Jamaica. And so we're talking about, like, if you think about Planned Parenthood, there's IPPF, the international arm, and then FamPlan, which is the local arm of Planned Parenthood in the United States. And the way, they may be more known for abortion, but in the United States, they are the ones that are giving the children these kinds of treatments, hormonal treatments and stuff like that. And so comprehensive sexuality education feeds into the abortion industry, but also the multi-billion-dollar gender transformation or gender transition type treatments and surgeries. And so it's really a money-making thing at the end of the day, but a huge demonic agenda behind it as well.
You mentioned a particular organization, Dr. Daniel Thomas, and I have been, well, as you said it, I was doing a quick check, and I'm not discounting what you said, but are you saying that because you believe that's what they're doing, or you're saying that because you have evidence that's what they're doing?
No, man, there's hard evidence. They're committed to this sort of thing, and persons can actually look up farm plan. Persons can just Google a quick Google search. You will actually see the Jamaican guidelines for comprehensive sexuality education, and that was done by this organization, Farm Plan Jamaica, in association with SECUS, which is the Sexual Information and Education, I don't remember what the C is for, of the United States, Council of the United States. They actually have developed a comprehensive sexuality education framework for Jamaica, and this was from 2008. So this is not new information. They have been described on the IPPF website as being staunch promoters and advocates of comprehensive sexuality education in Jamaica. And so, you know, this is not new information, but this is information that we need to talk more about, because the global push is in this direction, and certainly there are intentions for the Jamaican population to go that way. You would have had me previously to speak about the ACP-EU agreement. In that agreement, African, Caribbean, Pacific, and EU agreement, there is a huge push also for comprehensive sexuality education, and it is my inkling that all they would have to do is flick that switch if we were to sign such an agreement, and Farm Plan would just activate the things that they have already set, theorized, I guess. And I don't know how much they've actually infiltrated schools, but comprehensive sexuality education is certainly one of their areas of specialty going back several decades.
Infiltrated is a very strong word, Dr. Thomas.
Well, it would be against our laws, so it would be an infiltration, yes.
Well, to my knowledge, the Ministry of Education hasn't sanctioned any such teaching to students.
Certainly. So what I was saying is that we don't know. We are hoping that none of that information has gotten into our schools and is actually happening right now. But we really don't know. For example, in 2012, when the Minister of Education, Ronnie Thwaites, heard about this kind of thing happening, those questionable things being put into the mouths of 7th graders, where did that come from? And it also happened in our children's homes. The JFJ, Farm Plan, and Caribbean Vulnerable Communities, 3 organizations were part of the development of that curriculum. All this is well documented. And so the question really is it that we have tracked down and found all this kind of thing happening in our schools, or is it happening in silos where there are probably activist teachers, as we are seeing in the United States? Does it happen here? These are things that we need to ask. And so our journalists really need to be have their ears to the ground to the work that organizations like Farm Plan is doing locally, and CVC. I don't know what JFJ's current position is, but we just need to remain vigilant, because we are not unaware of the kind of agendas that exist.
I'm not wanting to cut you, Dr. Thomas, but we want to bring back in Pastor Carr. Pastor Carr, Dr. Daniel Thomas just told us some very earth-shattering things there. And, how does it work over time in your view, Pastor Carr, generation to generation? How is that this generation occurs? You are speaking about the music and the violence that comes from the music, but you may have other concerns. I don't know. Pastor Carr?
Just to touch on what the doctor was saying. To me, what is coming out is a erosion of the values. Something basic as gender is now a choice, or is becoming a choice in other areas, and he's implying that could also creep into our society. And it goes fundamentally to the whole thing of morals, right and wrong. There's no standard. If a man born and him want to be a woman, him can be, and if he want to be a woman, want to be a man, they can be. And the internet, you spoke of in a globalized society, yes, and there are pluses and minuses, because of the internet, you have social media where children can go on and all kind of subliminal messages imparted to them. And the subconscious mind is very active, and that is where when things are sown in that subconscious mind, it can cause problems down the road. But I see two important issues coming out: one of values, and one of what is norm, what is accepted as a norm. It's almost bizarre to think of somebody born in a woman want to be a man, and vice versa. God made man, and then he made woman. So it goes back to one's concept of what is right and wrong. It goes right back to the Bible and God's standards. And this is a very troubling place where the world is trending into. A very ungodly place, a life without God, without standards. That man can do what he wants to do without consequences.
Pastor Carr, only because of time, I'm interjecting, only because of time.
Yes,
because
understand.
You have said quite a bit so far, but how can the family, how can parents, how can caring teachers identify these challenges and protect children, including teachers, including the guidance counselors? Because whether we may realize it or not, some children, for whatever reason, are confused, have been traumatized, and find themselves very open to being easily led down a particular path. Pastor Carr, speaking as a pastor.
It has come back to family, and the family have to set high moral standards, godly standards, and guide the children from home. And
Pastor
then
Pastor Carr, I don't know if I'm can I? This may not be politically correct to say, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, many parents don't have high moral standards.
There goes the one of the critical problem in Jamaica, because we don't really have a lot of stable.
This is at all stratas of society, high and low, middle, everywhere.
And I know, in the interest of time, I just want to say one thing. It may be controversial, but one of the things is that Jamaica as a country is drifting away from God in a very big way. That is one of the main problems.
I agree.
Drifting away from the moral standard that God set down. Remember, I said God made us, so He knew what man should have as a guide to cause him to fulfill our purpose. And so it's coming like man. I mean, if you look at in 2 Timothy 3, we talk about end time. Everything is unfolding before us, and people are just seem to be unaware of what God said would happen if you drift away from Him. Let man sliding down a scale to destruction without consideration of anything. Once is pleasure, once is popular, once is modern. That's it. And we're on a slippery slope.
Pastor Carr, only because of time, let me see if I can bring in Dr. Daniel Thomas before we wrap today.
You need to do another program to finish this. You need another program.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Daniel Thomas, before we close today, sir, what can be done? Because it's nice to say that, children shouldn't do this and children should not do that. But for whatever reason, some children find themselves doing certain things and they carry these things into adulthood. A child can just go on a particular video channel and they're exposed to all sorts of things from all over the globe. Dr. Daniel Thomas, what can be done?
We need to do better as a society to educate our children. We need to do better as a church to understand our role, which is the defenders of truth and the purveyors of truth. Jesus said in John 18:37, He came and was born into the world to testify and defend truth. And so we need to take that role very seriously. Every single Christian, whatever your vocation is to understand that God has given you your area of influence so that you will stand for truth and for the love of Jesus Christ. Okay, both go hand in hand. Jesus was full of grace and truth. We have not preached that in our churches, and so we have been left vulnerable. The United States, a poll, the Worldview Inventory of 2022 showed that 32% of pastors in the United States actually have a biblical worldview concerning truth. That is pastors, in the US, they are far gone. We as a church need to ensure that we hold to the truth of God, that we walk in that truth, and that each believer understands that our role in society is to hold to the truth of the Lord Jesus Christ, representing it everywhere that we go, and allowing that the kingdom of God and the principles of the word of God would be advanced so that souls will be saved, but also that truth will be defended.
I think we have to leave it there this morning. I think we're totally out of time, and maybe I could even add more mentorship and coaching is required in terms of raising the children. Thank you, Pastor Carr and Dr. Thomas, for your time and for your thoughts. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you, listeners, for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
As we had other topical and controversial issues, and of course, visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs, and listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to the family station, Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing it back to Love in the Morning with Dr. Nadine Blair.
Thank you so much. You have been listening to the Morning Watch, brought to you by Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica.